Hello and welcome to Hell, which is my library. Um, we'll be looking at Canto 10, picking up where we left off last time. Last time was, of course, Canto 9. The first nine we covered, lickety split, pretty fast. So we'll try to be fast here. So I guess the way to do that is to get on with it, Dr. Holmes. Um, this particular video will cover as much of the Divine Comedy as possible, as much of the Inferno as possible. But I'll be breaking it up into smaller units. I probably won't go much past 15 minutes on any of these videos to make them more easily uploaded. So don't think that when I say goodbye at the end of this video that you're done for the day. So look for the other ones, and we'll try to do it in about the same amount of time as we would do it in class. So Canto 10, Dante is still in the sixth circle of hell, looking at the heretics. Now, heresies were not particularly a temptation for Dante. Dante does not conclude from that he's not a sinner. I mean, that's he doesn't feel he doesn't feel that he doesn't have to cover these sins simply because he doesn't have experience or a difficulty with them. So one of the ways that he can personalize this, in all of the other sins, he can see himself in the sinners, and so he can see the result of these sins on a personal level. Um, that's not quite open to him among the heretics, and so he has to find a way to personalize them. So he does that in the Inferno by encountering sinners that are personal, that have a personal connection to him. First of all, politically with Farinata, and then poetically with Guido Cavalcanti. He meets Cavalcanti's father. Cavalcanti was another one of his fellow poets in the Dolce Stil Nuovo. They were part of a school, if you will. So he begins, opening of Canto 10. Now onward down a narrow path between the city's ramparts and the suffering, my master walks, I following close behind. Um, and then he is accosted by Farinata, not vice versa, because as Dante is talking um, to Virgil, he's talking, of course, in the Tuscan dialect of Italian, and Farinata hears that, and now and he is a Tuscan also. He's a Ferranese, from Firenze, he's a Florentine, um, and so he recognizes the voice, and so he calls out in line 22, "O Tuscan, walking through our flaming city, alive and speaking with such eloquence." Uh, this is the city of Dis, or Dis is Dis. I would think that Dis would be Dat, but that's not true. So Dis is Dis, the city of Dis, the city of in hell. Um, and so that's the flaming city that he's talking about. But you're not supposed to be walking through it alive. That surprise at seeing a live soul in hell will continue with some of the other speakers in hell. O Tuscan, walking through our flaming city alive and speaking with such eloquence, or elegance actually, be kind enough to stop here for a while. Your mode of speech identifies you clearly as one whose birthplace is that noble city, with which, in my time, perhaps, I was too harsh. Now that is a rhetorical device known as meiosis. The Greeks called that meiosis, which means understatement. Um, it can have a harsh effect in this particular kind of use, because it's an understatement. Because what Farinata did was he banded together with the neighboring city of Siena, collaborated with the enemies of Florence in order to get power in Firenze. So essentially, he's a traitor. He brings in outsiders to help him take over to take power in Firenze. That's what Farinata did. And so to say I was too harsh um, is a horrible a horrible under statement of what he did to the Firenese that opposed him. Turn around and look at Farinata, he says, line 31, who has risen. You will see him from the waist up standing straight. Okay, remember these guys were in their sepulchres. I had already had my eyes fixed on his face, and there he stood out tall in his chest and brow, proclaiming his disdain for all this hell. Okay. Farinata was in life a man who thought he was better than everybody else. And we see this in this characterization. This is one of the most detailed characterizations in all of the Inferno. We can feel his disdain here. Dante doesn't have to tell us. We see it in his dialogue. The condescending way that he speaks to Dante, especially when he speaks nicely to Dante because he hears him speaking eloquently. So he thinks this must be a nobleman. This must be one of my cronies. But when he finds out that Dante is not only from the other party, but from a lesser family, he has no respect for Dante whatsoever. He says, "And who would your ancestors be?" he says in line 42. And I, who wanted only to oblige him, held back nothing, but told him everything. You know, instead of saying, "What's it to you, big shot?" He is overcome by perhaps. Well, I won't read too much into it. I'll just leave it with what Dante says. I held nothing back. I just wanted to please him. At this, he lifted up his brows a little. What a so the interesting thing about that section, and again, I'm not sure if I mentioned the line numbers. That's around line 45. Um, Dante kind of falls into Farinata's game of one-upmanship. You know, in hell, what the hell difference would it make what family you were from? Are you burning with less pain in hell as a heretic if you were from a noble family? I doubt it. So you would think that by the time you reached your final residence in hell, you would realize the vanity, the ridiculousness of those kinds of social distinctions. But he doesn't, and Dante, instead of rising above that, kind of gets sucked into the game of who are your ancestors. Now, the interesting thing about this is that Dante doesn't think he has any illustrious ancestors, but, oh, I don't want to spoil it, but he's going to run into one. So, ooh, don't you like those teas? No, don't you hate those teases? However you respond, it's too late. It's already recorded. There's nothing I can do about it. I'm not going to go back and erase it, so that's too bad. What a harsh. See, I'm getting like Farinata myself. I've got to watch that. Who were your ancestors anyway? Bitter enemies of mine they were, he says about Dante's ancestors, and of my ancestors and my party. I had to scatter them not once, but twice. There again in that verb scatter, you see another euphemism. He killed a lot of them. The ones that he didn't kill, he exiled harshly from Florence, kicked them out of their own homes, their own city. So that's what scattering is. Dante, again, Dante is sucked into the game, and so he responds in the same partisan, angry manner. They were expelled, agrees Dante, but only to return from everywhere. I said, not once, but twice. We came back twice. And your men, however, never mastered. Okay, so there, Dante thinks he's going to get the last word. Because Dante is experiencing life in 1300 And Farinata was from perhaps the late 12th century. So Dante thinks that he's one up on Farinata. What he forgets is that Farinata cannot perceive the present, but he can perceive what for Dante would be the future. So he isn't cowed by Dante's because what Dante is saying actually did happen. Farinata's party were the Ghibellines, Dante's were the Guelphs, and the Ghibellines seized Italy with the help of Siena before Dante was born. And before Dante was born, Dante's family and party kicked out the Ghibellines. And so when Dante was growing up, the Ghibellines were scattered, and they never came back, at least as far as Dante knew. It heats up. Okay. Suddenly, we're interrupted by another sound of weeping. This time, this is another soul who we hear his weeping, and in line 58 he says, "If it be great genius that carries you through this blind jail, where is my son?" This man recognizes Dante as a friend of his son, a fellow poet with his son. This is Cavalcanti, the father of Guido Cavalcanti, um, the poet. "I do not come alone," I said to him. "Virgil is with me. That one waiting over there guides me through here. The one, perhaps, your Guido held in scorn." When they were poets together, when they were learning the craft of poetry, one of Dante's great models was Virgil. But Guido Cavalcanti, he's saying here, did not hold Virgil in the same esteem as he did. So Guido's dad is asking for his son, and Farinata comes back again. So Guido Cavalcanti's dad interrupts the discussion with Farinata, but Farinata resumes it. He merely picked up where he had left off, ignoring the other grave, right? Because he's just a Cavalcanti. He's just a Guelph. He's insignificant. So Farinata acts as if he never even heard Guido's dad. Now remember where the conversation ended up with Dante saying, "Your guys never learned how to come back. That's an art they never mastered." Here's Farinata's response. "If that art they did not master," line 77, he went on, "that gives me greater pain than does this bed. But the face of the queen who reigns down here," that is Hecate. Hecate in classical mythology she was a goddess of witches. She had power in all three realms, in heaven, earth, and in the underground. And her threefold form associated her with the moon. And so Hecate, so they wouldn't know Diana, as that's the Roman name for the goddess of the moon that you'll recognize from Aeneid. So they wouldn't associate the moon with Diana, but they would with Hecate, because they can't see the moon because they're in hell, okay? But their association with the moon is the triple goddess Hecate, and she does show up in hell. So that's why there's that technique that we talked about, where the people in hell will speak of things from an infernal point of view. So this is not Dante trying to be coy by making an obscure reference. He's trying to put the language the way from a hellish point of view. The face of the queen who reigns down here will glow not more than 50 times. Okay, so 50 months. Okay, so 4 years is 48 months. So it'll be less than 4 years, he says, before you learn how hard it is to master such an art. Okay. Now this is in 1300. This is a prophecy for Dante. Farinata is saying, you will find yourself exiled. And as I hope that you may once more know the sweet world, tell me, why should your party be so harsh to my clan in every law you make? Dante replies, the massacre and butchery that stained the waters of Arabia red. This is the Battle of Monteperte. That was in 1260, 5 years before Dante was born. Now cause such laws to issue from our councils. Okay. You have the nerve to complain about our laws being harsh when you killed my ancestors, dumped their bleeding bodies into the river. You think that wasn't harsh? Um, but that raises all of this talk about Dante's future raises a question for Dante. So he asks Virgil, how is it that the damned can see the future and not the present? And Farinata answers the question. He says, you'll know your fate when you see the lady who is waiting for you. So that takes us to Canto 16, and I've kind of gone overboard here on I'm sorry, Canto 11 on Canto 10. So let's make this video just Canto 10, and so we'll bid alas farewell for now, but do come back and see me for Canto 11 on the other side of this video. So bless you, and see you again for Canto 16.